Hello. Have you or a loved one recently come into some disposable income? Are you tired with all of the painstaking decisions you have to make with how to manage this money? Should you put it aside into safe assets? Should you financially set your future and plan for your retirement? Or have you potentially considered a much more fun alternative and exciting alternative? Losing at sports betting. Who needs a 401k, a Roth IRA, a traditional IRA, or any form of retirement investment account or tax advantaged account when you, yes, you, can lose all of your money in dramatic, unique, fun ways? With our platform, we provide you with a multitude of different variations of unique betting opportunities you can take to lose your money. Are you tired of perhaps taking care of a home? If so, we can arrange for you to lose every last penny you have until you are living under a bridge. This will completely eliminate all headaches and painstaking decisions that may face you with how to deal with wealth. When you start to face these questions and you go, oh, how am I going to manage my wealth? What wealth will be the only question you have answered. If this sounds right for you, please join our Prediction Markets app where you can lose all of your money. Thank you. As you can tell by that fiery intro, we are of course going to be talking about not only sports betting, AI slop, but how we're seeing kind of the culmination of this and how it's actually already taking effects on individuals. As I'm sure a lot of you are aware, especially those of you who have been watching the Olympics or watched the Super Bowl recently, you have of course discovered the magnitude of AI slop ads out of that space, but also just the pure quantity of gambling ads you are going to be faced with. Now, I'm someone who's in the young adult male category when it comes to my age range, so this was something that was rather interesting to me to see how other people react to it. Spoiler alert, they don't love it, but it was really exciting to see because this is something that's personally been annoying to me for about the past 2 years. And with the recent release of Sora 2 and companies trying to pivot into generating these completely 100% sloppy AI videos that are god awful and terrible, it feels like the pure quantity of these ads has definitely skyrocketed. Now, it's no secret who these ads are trying to target. A lot of them have been trying to target my age and demographic, and they came out the gate swinging on that. But now it almost seems like they're trying to open this up to, well, everyone. And that is, of course, their intention. That's how they grow as a business. But the sad reality that I'm kind of watching is that it seems to work. See, I remember back in 2024, it became a major deal that actually the amount of money that individuals in the United States were putting into their investments first became less than the amount of money they were putting into sports betting. And for me, that was really, really concerning. And I touched on that in a video at the time, talking about how much of a horrible decision that is for your average household, as spoiler alert, the long-standing proven pathways to financial freedom are probably going to be better than the promised instant gratification that will almost certainly be robbing you blind. But some people didn't necessarily share that opinion, and you can see that by just the pure popularity of these platforms and how massive they've become. In fact, I recently had a conversation with someone who I deem is pretty intelligent, who you wouldn't necessarily rope in with someone who sports bets or does prediction markets or anything like that. And I actually had a quite interesting conversation because they were betting on curling. Now, here's the thing. Curling's not the most massive sport in the world by any means. In fact, I would say there's a rather small portion of the people on Earth who actually keep up with curling or at this point even understand the rules or know the rule set whatsoever. And in this instance, that was actually the case. They had little to no understanding of curling whatsoever. The problem was they were trying to bet in a specific time frame, right? Because a lot of the people, they start betting with sports they're familiar with and they start betting on things that they want to keep up with and watch. And then it gets to the point where in this instant gratification thing, they start betting on random things. Like we've all seen the jokes about, oh, betting on Ugandan third league soccer, or your dad when they bet on a minor league baseball game, or just whatever the case may be, right? But that was the scenario that I found this person in. And that was kind of something that I looked at, and it really kind of dawned to me just how out of hand not only sports betting but just prediction markets in general are getting, is that the people like this, who are individuals you wouldn't ever rope into the crowd that would potentially be addicted to gambling online, are now participating in it. Now, it comes as literally no surprise as someone who runs a finance YouTube channel that I'm very opposed to the instant gratification methods of wealth that have been promoted by live streamers who lose lots of money, but then they really highlight their small wins, and really just negative, terrible behavior that kind of plays into the gambling, fun, dopamine hit style that gambling plays into. And I seem to see a lot of similarities between that crowd and the options trading crowd that you might find on, say, a Wall Street Bets, perhaps. In fact, I'd say the vast majority of the kids who I overhear in my classes talking about sports betting to the extent that you're losing money on curling in the Olympics would be the same kids who definitely take on risky options positions without really understanding all of the risks involved with taking on options. And it's really sad to kind of see all of this happen, because, at least to me, what this screams is there seems to be a clear disconnect between the sentiment of how the actual individuals are feeling and how maybe the stock market is portraying the economy. Of course, I don't personally believe the stock market is a fully 100% great representation of the economy. Some people would be pushing that right now. I already know this is going to potentially have people thinking about current political things. I didn't even mean it like that, but that is a thing. But some people tend to view the stock market as the entire economy, but what I see out of sports betting, and specifically the negative behavior where you have the people who are, no, it's very, very small odds, and they're not doing this with like, oh, I want to add $5 on a game to make it really interesting. It's people who are putting a sizable amount into these bets, right? That does not scream a sentiment of everybody has cash at a readily available that they're willing to actually put on these games. To me, that screams that people are being pushed into sources of income where they see these extreme winners, right? And that appears to them as their only real opportunity to get large magnitudes of wealth in a short time frame, is whether it be options, whether it be leverage or margin in terms of like traditional investments, or whether it be really long parlays where people are putting way too much money that they don't actually have, like what we would call disposable income, and what individuals who make a significantly smaller sum of money than should ever be sports betting call disposable income, is going to be quite different, in that some of these people are cooking up 7 and 8 leg parlays on sports they don't actually know, or involve sports they don't really know or care about, and it's really sad to see. Now, I mentioned AI slop ads in the intro, and this is a thing that I'm kind of crediting right now with really helping to explode the reach of sports betting. And when I say sports betting at this point, feel free to just rope in prediction markets as well, right? Because at this point, it's transcended simply sports. It's become, you can bet on everything. That is the world we live in today, is you can bet and lose money on whatever you want to lose money or donate money to the platforms with. You can just do it with absolutely anything. But at this point, AI slop ads are making it incredibly easy for these companies to bypass some of the traditional marketing techniques and simply focus on quantity over quality. For instance, I'm just going to throw this out there. When I say AI slop ad, right? That is how the vast majority of people on Earth refer to these ads, right? So we know deep down that they're terrible advertisements, right? Otherwise, we wouldn't be denoting them with AI slop, right? The problem is that these are so cheap to produce for a company because if you just take a second to think about this from a logical standpoint, right? For a traditional company that's trying to do traditional marketing on TV, YouTube, whatever they're trying to market on, right? They have a marketing department, right? They have to go hire actors in their video. They have to come up with scripts. They have to go to locations. They have to film. They then have to edit. They then have to further edit until it actually is good enough to air on television, right? These are things that take time and resources, whereas having one person and Sora 2 can get you an ad. And yes, most people on Earth, I feel, would agree that having an ad that has the AI voice in it that we all know and hate at this point because every AI ad sounds the exact same is significantly cheaper than all the things I just mentioned. It's so much cheaper that for basically every one ad, the company that utilizes a whole marketing department and all of the sets and all of the editing and whatnot, right? That one ad can be roughly the cost of thousands of different ads using just Sora 2 and a person prompting Sora 2, right? And so that's the situation we're in. There's obviously been some significant cost analysis, right, to understand hey, at a one to one, if you were to take both these ads side by side, obviously the organic original people would make a better ad in this one ad. But if we were going to compare this one ad with the thousands we can make at the same cost, and then we can just spend all the money we would have spent producing the ad, actually playing it significantly more, shooting it out to more people, more demographics, going on different platforms with it, right? That is how they are measuring their effect. And in the same time, we're seeing an uptick in AI slop ads from companies. I'm seeing an uptake in risk taking behavior from people with incomes that should be nowhere near that risky. Overall, I'm not really adding some like new groundbreaking take. I feel confident saying, right, that I am in the masses when I say that AI slop ads have gotten out of hand, right? And they're annoying and pushing really dangerous behaviors where you have people every single week, at this point every day, firing up a sports betting account, firing up their Poly Market or a predictions app, right? And donating money on these things and really replacing their investments. I think that's the scary part. Not enough people are just using the traditional investments anymore because when people win money, right? It's instant. It's at a 100% plus return. For some of these parlays, it's a really, really big return, right? That it would take them years and years and years to see that type of return in investing. The problem is you're being compensated that way because they know you're going to come back and you're going to lose it all, right? They don't make money as a company if there aren't people addicted to gambling on their platforms who are continually generating revenue for them. And you are the revenue. It's a bold strategy from a company, right? But people don't take a second to think about they are the product. Their money that they're bringing is the product. These companies have priced all of these things and know about how likely they are to actually make money off of you, and it's profitable enough that they can run multi-billion-dollar companies. That's how good they are at taking all of your money. And despite the fact that you'll see Twitch streamers, you'll see people firing up RainBet and promoting this, and they win on their videos because spoiler alert, it would look really terrible if they were doing an advertisement or a promotion with a company and they were losing. Obviously, they're going to cut and edit out all of the parts where they're losing, just like I would cut and edit out all of the parts where I stumble over my words and look really dumb. So, obviously they are not going to show real like the real situation of what's going to happen to you when they can just go on these apps and win, and then when you get on there suddenly, oh, it's real, and I've lost a sizable portion of money, and you get addicted, right? I'm watching people who I know get addicted to these platforms, and they understand, right, that they are not going to win long term. They understand that these should not be replacements for investments, but a lot of the people that I've had conversations who are really, really down the wormhole, it's like you ask them, would you consider putting a small portion aside into a Roth IRA? And it's mind boggling. Why would I ever do that? Why would I ever put money away I couldn't use right away? But then they always have money for betting on things, they always have money to donate to a predictions market. And it's really scary that it's becoming as normalized as it is. Thank you for listening to me rant about negative gambling culture and specifically how it's targeting people in younger demographics. But now at this point, it's just kind of expanded into targeting whoever will give money to the platform. I hope that maybe even though it's not like I was trailblazing a new stance, that hopefully you were able to relate to something or think about something, or maybe you know someone who's kind of in this dopamine hitting wormhole, and hopefully you can talk them out of it. But overall, that was just kind of what I was thinking about, because especially after the Super Bowl and I'm getting a ton of targeted ads, and it gets to a point, man. It gets to a point. But I really appreciate your time. Thank you for checking out my video.